Okay, so we've got RPG All-in-One imported. So now you should see the menu here, which I just went to, and you should be able to open RPG All-in-One. So we're going to straight away run things. So if you go to Tools, RPG All-in-One, you can play the intro scene, and straight away things should begin working. So you can click New, go on Characterization. Everything obviously is blank right now. You can enter a name, my name or whatever. You can rotate your character, click Continue, and create your character. And you're in the demo scene where you can move around, jump, open your inventory, etc. So this is a great starting point to now begin adding new things. So the first thing we are going to do is our character creation. So to do that, we're going to obviously need to set up our player. So let's go to the RPG All-in-One window first, and we're going to go to Player, and we're setting up a new character. So go to the Character tab. Now our default character is here, and it's filled out with some default information. We're going to overwrite this one with our new character. So this is going to be our RPG method character, and we just have an identifier here because we'll get to our classes, etc. in a second. So the first thing is our description. So we can say this is our starting character, and then we have a bunch of things to fill out. But before we do that, we're going to first look at our player options. So here you have all the options for how our player works and how some of the character creation feature works. So you can skip character creation if you don't want there to be one, and it will just use the first character it finds in the character list here. You can also skip race selection, sub-race selection. You can enable or disable customizations, for example, like how tall the character is, how much weight the character has. And you can also choose which description is shown. So we're going to use the character description. Actually, we're going to use both descriptions. And the rest of these options here we can just leave for now. So we'll go back to our character. And so it tells us which race, sub-race, and gender we would like to use. So we can also define these here. So we're going to define our race, which we'll just say is human. The humans live on Earth. And also you can assign some icons here. So I'm going to use our warrior icon here for this one. And the second I do that, we get a little error. So originally we had our assets in the My Assets folder, and this is typically how you're going to organize things. You're going to have your own kind of folder system set up. However, in RPG All-in-One, since we load a lot of things during runtime, you need to put it inside of the resources folder so that we can find it. So what we're going to do is we're going to make another folder inside of resources, and we're going to call it My Assets. And anything you want to use, we're just going to put in here. So I'm going to actually be using all of this, all of these icons. So I'm going to take all of these icons and move them. Now our models we can actually leave because models are stored in prefabs, which are stored in the resources folder anyway. So that we don't have to move for now. But anything that gives you this error saying that icons, etc. must be stored in assets/resources just means it has to be inside of this resources folder somewhere. So now we can actually use this portrait without any errors, and we'll save our data. So we're going to do the same thing for our subrace. In this case, we're just going to call it, we'll say fighters, and the applicable race is human. And we're going to say humans who are trained for combat. And for this one, we can add an icon here as well. And we'll use just this sword icon and save our data again. And our genders are going to keep male and female, should be fine. Now we can go back to our character, and we have these already set up. So we're going to add an icon for our character as well. We'll use this like hunter icon. And now the next one is our applicable class. So we want this class to be, let's say, a warrior. So we're going to go to our class names under player and just rename this default one to warrior. People trained to use weapons such as swords. We can also add an icon for this. We'll add the gloves icon. So we go back to our character, and that is essentially it. So we've got a bunch of other options here, which I'll briefly go over. So our character prefab is the most important one. So right now it's this capsule. So that is what represents this character, this capsule. But obviously we want to use our actual character. So we're going to spawn the prefab to the scene. And there it is, our capsule. So obviously we want that to be our mechanism character. So we'll take our model, and we want the prefab. And if you look, all we actually want is the animator component. We don't want the rigid body or the capsule collider. Literally all we want is the model with the animator component. So we're going to remove all of these extra ones, like so. And now we're going to take that model and we're going to drag it into our character's prefab. And then we're going to reset its position so it's in the right place. There we go. So now we've still got a capsule there in this cube. We're going to delete that. And so now our character is represented by our mechanism character. We've got a few more changes we need to do. So the capsule collider and box collider doesn't fit up, so we need to change those. So let's make our character controller a bit taller. Oops. Now we can move it up slightly. We need to make our nav mesh agent the right height as well. And make sure the Y position is set correctly. That'll do. And finally the box collider, we need to make a bit higher, a bit taller, sorry, and make sure it's centered like so. So there we go, that's more accurate. Then you want to apply your changes. One more thing we need to do is we have this missing property here, and we want our character model. So our character model is our RPG character, which we just put in. And if we do that and hit apply, our character is now represented by our mechanism character. If we try and run the game now, it is not going to work correctly yet because we haven't set up our animations. But just for the sake of testing, we'll do that, just so you can see like what happens at this stage in case you get stuck at this stage. So if you make a new character, we can see now we've got that race icon there, we've got our description, we've got our sub race icon there with our new character info, and there's our character. So right now he is playing the idle animation because if you look at our character, obviously we have an animation controller here, the one that is built in with the model, and that's obviously playing some animations. Now later on we'll be changing that, but for now, if we added in a name and created our character, you can see we've got some issues. So let's resolve those issues.